Hi, welcome to Accelerated Engineering. This is the Beginner's Guide to Excel, Part 1. If you were looking for a guide on something else or for a particular function, let me know in the comments so I can get started making that. For this Part 1 of the Beginner's Guide, my intent is just to go over the basic parts of Excel and call them by their name so that you have an idea of what tools are present and what general things are kind of running around this window. This assumes that you are using the Microsoft 365 or 365 version of Excel, which is a subscription package, and I'm filming this in early 2023, so there might be some changes, but that's generally what this is. So first of all, we've got the Excel workspace, or the Excel window. There are lots of parts to it, but the part that we most often look at is the workspace in this area here. Every one of these little boxes is called a cell, and it has an address that's determined by the column letter and the row number at the top and left-hand side of the screen respectively. So for example, the cell that I have highlighted right now is cell F15. This one over here is cell H2. And if you were looking really closely, you might have noticed that up here in the name box, the name of the cell is also referenced. We'll come back to some more uses for the name box at another time. On this screen, I have some parts that I've created previously. I have a chart over here, and it's not really important right now how we got it. This is just known as a chart. And over here, I have some data arranged as a table with headers and columns and rows of data. So again, a column running this way and a row running this way. This table has 4 columns and lots and lots and lots of rows. Okay. All of this workspace, all of these cells are collected into a thing called a worksheet or a sheet. And you can see the title of your sheet down here at the bottom. This right now is sheet 3. Usually Excel starts with sheet 1, and you can generate new sheets by collecting this plus button. And what that does is it gives you an entirely new set of clear cells ready to be edited. These sheets can be renamed by double-clicking and adding new names. And you can switch between these freely. You see this is a different sheet and another sheet. This one's just blank, and this is where we started. Okay. Now, scrolling around or navigating between these cells can be done by clicking with the mouse or using the arrow keys to move up and down. There are also some advanced tricks for jumping large portions. We'll cover that later in a tips video, I think. For now, it's enough to know that you can click, scroll using the mouse wheel if you've got it, or using these, what do they call these? Scroll bars. That's it. Using the scroll bars at the bottom or on the right-hand side of the screen. And if you're wondering about how far these go, like how far you can scroll to the right, how far you can roll down, it's a long ways. There is an exact number, but it's larger than you're probably ever going to need to worry about. Okay. Next thing that we should look at is the formula bar here. If I click into a cell that has a value in it, its value, if it's a formula, will show up in the formula bar. So for example, the cell presents a value, and the formula bar shows how it calculated that value. Now, if I've directly input a value, it just shows the value. If there's a formula or a function, then this is where that would be shown. Don't worry about how this function works, it doesn't matter. It's just that this is where you can go to edit functions. I can change this however I want. We'll leave it alone for now. A little bit higher up, we have the toolbar and the ribbon. The toolbar is this list of words across here, from File, Home, Insert, etc., through to, in this case, Table Design. But really up until Help is where the standard toolbar reaches, from File until Help. After Help, there will sometimes be additional tabs available that are context sensitive. Right now, because I've selected inside of a table, it brings up the Table Design tab. If I click inside of my chart, then it brings up a Chart Design tab and a Format tab that are context sensitive. And in the blank area, there isn't anything for context. The ribbon will change depending on which tab of the toolbar is clicked. So for example, the Home tab shows some things that look very similar to Microsoft Word. Cut, copy, paste functions, the ability to resize text or change font. You'll see here there's the bold, italics, and underline tools, some fills and text colors that are all very Microsoft Word-esque, if you're familiar with that program. There are a lot of quick format options, and there's a drop-down box here where you can select if you want to color a particular cell in a particular way or resize it. There we go. And I can use these to quickly change between different fonts and colors and a few preset formats. I'm just going to reset that to normal for now. What else is here? The ability to manipulate or insert cells or rows or columns if you need to insert things. There's some sorting and filtering tools, and that's all in the Home ribbon. Under Insert, there's the ability to generate tables, which is particularly useful. That's how I generated this table here out of existing data. It lets you insert a variety of add-ins and maps, and I don't really use this particularly. It's more of an advanced tool. It allows you to insert charts, which is how I got this guy. Oops, skip that. A few spark lines. There's more filters that can be inserted. Text boxes, if you ever needed to draw a box that wasn't in a particular cell. No, I want it to go away. There we go, delete. And you can insert equations and symbols, just some nifty tools there. Page layout is more about how your page is presented when you go to print. If I press under the File menu and under Print is where you would be able to see your print preview. Now, my computer doesn't have a printer hooked up to it and is throwing a temper tantrum every time I click Show Print Preview, but this is where you would go. You can adjust things like your margins and print area, where your pages break, etc. Also interesting tick boxes here are the grid lines. You can turn on and off the grid lines that show you where all the boxes are, and the headings. So that's my coordinate references. So if you ever lose your coordinate references, page layout is the place to go. Formulas gives me access to all of the various functions that Excel contains. And really, this is probably the reason that you want to use Excel, is for the access to all of these functions. And this is where all of them can be found in a relatively short order. For example, I have tutorials right now on the sum function, if you want to add numbers together, the if function over here in logical. I have a tutorial on the if function, and one on the lambda function, and I think one on the let function as well right now. Like, there's plenty of access, plenty of resources available there. This is where they would all be found. The name manager is available if you want to have named variables for your spreadsheet. There's a variety of formula checking work here, and ways to change when your spreadsheet calculates. For example, usually it's set to automatic, but if you have a really big spreadsheet or one that's causing your computer to crash, changing this to manual can also help. Data is useful for bringing large amounts of data in or exporting large amounts of data out in useful file formats. We don't use that very often unless you have a really good reason to. It's also got neat stuff with data validation, which can be used to generate things like drop-down menus, or mostly drop-down menus is what I would use it for at this point. And a few other bits and pieces of tools. Review, boy, I haven't used anything on the Review tab in ages, except for putting passwords on spreadsheets in order to protect it from having other people change things. Excel has a neat feature where you can protect your worksheet, and then other people who are opening it can only edit certain ranges, which is a nifty tool to have at your disposal, but it's more of an advanced technique. I'll cover it later. Useful things if you're using this for data: spell check. Definitely spell check is a useful feature in Excel. For view, there's the ability to toggle in between a couple of different views. If you're interested in seeing what pages are being printed where, the page break preview kind of gives you an idea of how many pages it's going to take to print your sheet. And yeah, page layout, there we go, just adds the same breaks, shows your margins. It can be used that way. Most of the time working gets done in normal. You'll notice that it leaves the dashed line to show where your page breaks are. Shutting that off is annoying. Don't worry about it, deal with it later. Let's see, what else have we got? The Automate tab is useful if you're starting to thinking about scripting or writing macros. And then Help is, well, it's the typical Windows program function for help. So all of these portions of the toolbar have different ribbon items associated with them. For the custom items or the context items, for example, table design, it's going to have a whole bunch of extra tools that are useful for the design of your table in this case, but they'll be contextually relevant types of tools for rapidly changing the formatting or other bits and pieces. This is where you'd find all your table design tools. Chart has a similar one, your chart design, and a variety of different charts if they decide to load. Looks like it's just being a little bit cranky and slow, but it allows you to change your chart type, add different elements to your chart. Under the Context tab for chart design, there's a variety of tools available here, including the ability to quickly change the layout of a given chart. There we go. Quickly change the layout of a given chart between a large number of presets, or add a variety of chart elements, such as titles, data labels, and a legend if it's relevant to your particular chart. It isn't for mine. All right, what else have we got? Format, it's the same thing, just more tools for manipulating the way that your chart looks. And I think that's about everything for the basics of Excel, or the sort of the names and what tools are available inside of this ultra powerful maths tool, or database tool, or data presentation tool, depending on what you want to use it for. There's a zoom function. This could be useful for generally bigifying or smallifying your entire sheet. And I think that's about all that I'm going to cover in this beginner's guide. So with that, concluding the beginner's guide part 1, be sure to check out any future parts of this and let me know if there's something in particular that you would like to have covered in the comments. And as always, if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.